The roar of the engine was a comforting hum beneath me as I sped along the interstate, the rhythmic thrum of the tires on the asphalt blending with the tinny sound of the radio. My business trip had taken me across state lines, and I was now making my way back home, eager to conclude yet another successful deal. A crackling voice on the radio caught my attention, announcing the imminent arrival of a solar eclipse.
A rare celestial event.
The announcer enthused.
The eclipse will cast an eerie shadow across the land, a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle.
I felt a twinge of excitement at the thought of witnessing the phenomenon. I rummaged through my glove compartment and pulled out my dark sunglasses, ready to catch a glimpse of the eclipse when it occurred. The road ahead was a long, winding stretch that cut through the rugged terrain between states. A tunnel loomed up ahead, its gaping maw promising a brief respite from the glaring sun. I cursed my luck as I approached, realizing I might miss the solar eclipse while traversing the tunnel. As expected, my radio signal faded into static, the announcer's voice dissolving into white noise. I emerged from the tunnel, and the world was plunged into darkness. I glanced up, but saw the sun, or rather what should have been the sun, shrouded in a dark, ominous shadow. It hung in the sky like a malignant eye, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. The radio crackled back to life, a host's voice tinged with an unsettling glee.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the solar eclipse. This is no ordinary eclipse, this is hell on earth.
I chuckled, amused by the host's dramatic flair. Creative, I muttered to myself, dismissing the ominous proclamation. I continued driving, but a growing unease settled in my gut as the minutes ticked by and the sky remained a deep, unsettling shadow. A typical solar eclipse lasts only a few minutes, with the moon gradually moving to reveal the sun once more. But as I drove on, the dark hue persisted, an unchanging shadowy stain across the heavens. The road stretched out before me, disturbingly empty. The absence of other vehicles was peculiar, especially on an interstate. Occasionally, a lone red car would pass by on the opposite road. At first, I thought nothing of it, but as time went on, I realized it was always the same red car, passing by at regular intervals. A sense of dread began to creep over me, the slow, insidious realization that something was cosmically wrong. I turned my attention back to the radio, seeking some comfort in the familiar chatter of the host, but the words that filled my ears only heightened my unease.
Red meat,
the host intoned,
is a rare delicacy these days. So hard to come by that one must hunt for it. Ah, the taste of fresh, rare meat.
I frowned, my mind flashing back to the countless beef steaks and hearty meals I'd enjoyed during my travels. What did he mean by red meat being rare? Was a staple, not a luxury. Another red car drove past, the very same model I'd seen earlier. My pulse quickened, paranoia taking root. I became hyper-aware of my surroundings. The unchanging sky, the eerie quiet, and the repetitive sight of that red car. The road ahead seemed endless, the shadows deepening as I drove on. Every mile felt like an eternity, the oppressive silence weighing heavily on me. I glanced at the clock on the dashboard, its digital numbers blinking in and out of focus. How long had I been driving? Time seemed to have lost all meaning under the baleful gaze of the eclipse. The eerie stillness of the highway was occasionally broken by the repetitive sight of the red coal. Each time it passed, a chill ran down my spine, a cold finger tracing the length of my vertebrae. The same make, the same model, the same color. It was as if the universe had fallen into a loop, a nightmarish repetition with no end. I fiddled with the radio, hoping to find some solace in music or news, but the stations had dissolved into a cacophony of static and disjointed voices. The host's surly monologue about red meat lingered in my mind. A dark cloud of confusion and dread. What did it mean? Why was it rare? The questions swirled around my head, unanswered and unsettling. The oppressive darkness outside pressed against the car windows, the crimson sky casting grotesque shadows over the landscape. Every tree, every rock, every curve of the road seemed distorted, twisted into something unrecognizable. I felt as though I had entered another realm, the place where the natural laws no longer applied. A sign loomed up ahead, advertising a rest stop. Pomegranate Rest, a haven for weary travelers. The name was unfamiliar, but the promise of rest was tempting. The unease gnawing at my nerves made the decision for me. I needed a break, a moment to collect myself and shake off this creeping dread. The parking lot was deserted, the neon sign flickering ominously. The elderly woman at the counter greeted me with the same unnerving smile, her eyes too bright to knowing. I hesitated, but fatigue and fear drove me forward. I booked a room and head upstairs. The room was clean but nondescript, a standard roadside hotel setup. I took a hot shower, hoping to wash away the lingering unease. Emerging from the bathroom, I felt refreshed and slightly more grounded. I walked to the window and pulled back the curtains. My heart froze. In the sky, a pair of eyes, bloodshot and malevolent, stared back at me. I felt their gaze pierce through me, a soul-chilling scrutiny that left me paralyzed. Knocking on the door began, a relentless pounding that echoed through the room. Metallic clanks and muffled voices accompanied it, the discordant symphony of dread. The words were indistinct, but the urgency was palpable, a sense of impending doom pressing down on me. The phone rang, its shrill tone cutting through the cacophony, matching the frantic pace of my racing heartbeat. I stood rooted to the spot, my mind whirling, desperate to wake from what I prayed was a nightmare. The room spun, the vertiginous sensation making me dizzy, and a Sori entered. I stumbled to the mirror, my reflection a ghastly sight. My face was pallid, drained of color, my eyes wide with terror. I glanced at my hands and recoiled in horror. They were stained a deep, unsettling red. Weakness washed over me, and I slumped against the wall of the room. Through the thin walls, I heard a muffled voice, chilling in its clarity.
"We need more blood. Get them ready."
If you have enjoyed the content so far, consider leaving a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and continue making videos that keeps you awake at night. With that, we will see you on the next video.